When you think about WrestleMania 7, wrestling fans, when you think about Stars and Stripes, WrestleMania 7, what comes to mind? What comes to mind? Sergeant Slaughter, the American Turncoat, taking on Hulk Hogan. When you think about Stars and Stripes, WrestleMania 7, what comes to mind, wrestling fans? Macho King Randy Savage taking on the Ultimate Warrior, career-ending matchup, in which the biggest thing that stands out really is not the end of Macho Man Randy Savage's career, because number one, his career did not end. It was more Macho Man and Elizabeth joining forces again, hugging, and the fans' emotions just going everywhere, crying and standing on their feet, cheering for the Macho King. Coming in a bad guy, walking out a babyface. Perfect way, perfect ending to kind of, in a roundabout way, tease the end of a superstar's career. When you think about WrestleMania 7, wrestling fans, what comes to mind? The beginning of The Undertaker's streak, as he defeated, as the late great Gorilla Monsoon proclaimed, the greatest phenom in the WWE, Superfly Jimmy Snuka. And very impressively, mind you. When you think about WrestleMania 7, you think about how WWE incorporated commentators, wrestlers that did not have matches on the card, to take the place of Bobby the Brain Heenan, who was a manager at the time, as the commentator to help Gorilla Monsoon. Something I wish that they would do more of now. Incorporate wrestlers, incorporate superstars that have nothing to do in the back, so they would get some exposure, so they could add more to the show, especially if they have charisma and a mouthpiece. That would bring out more for the show. I would enjoy that. They did that in WrestleMania 7 twice, with Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Lord Alfred Hayes. Wrestling fans, that was a great extra piece to WrestleMania 7, and I would wish they would do that more often. When you think about WrestleMania 7, you think of Jimmy Hart's night. When you think of Jimmy Hart's stable, and you think about how he had an excellent, perfect night. I mean, Earthquake was victorious, the Mountie was victorious, and he got the Tag Team Championship. The Nasty Boys defeated the Hart Foundation to become the Tag Team Champions. All that, plus so much more happened at WrestleMania 7, and we're going to dive into it right here today. Before we do that, wrestling fans, become a subscriber and make sure you hit that bell and leave me a like and leave me a comment down below. That'd be much appreciated. And don't forget, this weekend, check out my reviews this weekend of WrestleMania 36, both Saturday and Sunday. That would be much appreciated. I will be doing WrestleMania 36 review split Saturday and Sunday. I will not be doing all of it on Sunday. Okay? Be splitting it up Saturday and Sunday. Now, wrestling fans, you think about WrestleMania 7, let's just dive in straight right at the beginning of the card. The Rockers took on the Barbarian and Haku, the Heenan family, okay? Part of the Heenan family. Contrast the style. You had strength, you had power, you had methodical, you had a tag team that's going to cut the ring in half, keep them in their corner. You had Barbarian and then Haku. And then you had high flying, running all over the place, going to tag team, going to just go all over the place and nuts. Rockers, really exciting action. Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty. Very good opening tag team contest. If you look at the Rockers back then, they were always at first or second matchup to get the fans excited for WrestleMania. And they did it again right at WrestleMania 7 and 91. The last WrestleMania that they were in together as a tag team. Wrestling fans couldn't ask for a better opening matchup back then, right around 1991, 92 for a tag team matchup, if you want to know the truth. So they did a great job here, and couldn't ask for anything else. Now, going to the next matchup, it had Dino Bravo taking on the Texas Tornado. This match came right after WWE announced that they had Marla Maples, Alex Trebek, and Regis Philbin as their celebrity guest co-host for the main event and for the commentators, the interviewers, and stuff like that in the back later on in the night. We'll discuss more about that later. Anyway, so Texas Tornado went over here, over Dino Bravo, pretty much hands down. It was a nothing matchup. WWE back then gave a lot of those. They put 14 matches in WrestleMania, and a handful of them were nothing matches. And I could have done without this one. I could have done without the Mountie versus Tito Santana. Tito Santana versus the Mountie later on in the night was simply there to cool down the audience until Sergeant Slaughter, the American Turncoat, took on the immortal Hulk Hogan. This match, kind of was just there. I don't even know why this was there, and I think you all are in agreement with me as well. It was just there to fill up time. Till you got to a matchup that actually had some story to it. Enough story to put on WrestleMania. And that was the British Bulldog taking on the Warlord. Two big, huge superpowers trying to break each other's full Nelsons. And actually had a good enough story to put on WrestleMania back at that time. Who won? Of course, the British Bulldog picked up the victory. 3 babyfaces in a row picks up the victory. Something you really don't see very often anymore in WWE, where you see babyface, 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 or heel, 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 heel pick up the victory. You don't see that very often anymore. It's back and forth, kind of like 50-50 or something like that until you get to the very end. And, and then you'll see like 2 in a row or something of that nature. You continue to see, baby faces or heels winning back then, and then poof, you could usually tell if a baby face was going to win in the main event. Especially in this pay-per-view, Stars and Stripes WrestleMania, Sergeant Slaughter didn't stand a chance coming into this. Not a chance in retaining the WWE Championship. We'll get to that in just a little bit. Moving on past the British Bulldog taking on the Warlord. after that, we move on to things like the Nasty Boys taking on the Hart Foundation for the Tag Team Championship. Both these tag teams had an excellent promo going into it, and Mean Gene Okerlund played off them excellently. I mean, excellent. With the Nasty Boys, saying they are nasty and just pushing back off of them when Knobs and Snags took his hanky and blew into it, blew their nose and all this stuff. And of course, the Nasty Boys were going to win. They were kind of on the rise right then. And of course, LOD was on the rise at the moment. And they were on a course of locking heads with each other. And the Hart Foundation weren't going to face LOD. So somebody was going to have to face Legion of Doom at SummerSlam. And Nasty Boys was that tag team. So, as soon as LOD got done with Power and Glory, Nasty Boys were waiting in the wing. So, Nasty Boys went over here with hitting the anvil with the helmet at the very end, after a very impressive matchup. And then 1, 2, and 3. Tag Team Gold around the waist of Knobs and Sags, the Nasty Boys. You have The Undertaker and Superfly Jimmy Snuka. Very impressive victory for the Dead Man at WrestleMania. The streak was born at WrestleMania 7, 1991. Okay? Lasted a very long time. A very long time. And then, we come to a matchup that everybody was wanting to see and no doubt the best match on the card. The best match on the card, and that was Macho King Randy Savage and the Ultimate Warrior. This match, by far, best one on the card. You couldn't ask for anything better than this. I mean, just think about it. Both men giving it absolutely everything, back and forth. And this was one of the very first matches that I can remember seeing that they kicked out of each other's finishers more than once. I think Ultimate Warrior kicked out of like 4 elbows off the top rope. Finally, at the end, he did beat Macho King Randy Savage, but it really wasn't about that. It was about what happened afterwards, and that was Miss Elizabeth pulling Sensational Queen Sherry off of Macho King Randy Savage, and then them embracing each other, hugging, and the fans going wild over it, and Macho King, immediate babyface after that. So, then they go to a break, and you have Alex Trebek and you have Regis Philbin, and they're all taking like these interviews with all these superstars and stuff, and you have Damien, and you have all these superstars going and cutting promos with them. And Damien and Jake the Snake Roberts is saying that they're going to have to play the home version of Jeopardy and all different types of things. And Tenryu and Katao won't answer and respond to anything that Regis Philbin says. And it was just a lot of fun. And Bobby the Brain Heenan set the whole thing up. It was just a humor for the fans break, at that time. And of course, afterwards, Bobby the Brain Heenan and Girl Monsoon fed, off each other, bouncing back and forth about who the Weasel chose for them to interview. Now, you had, in the midst of all this, a blindfold match. One of, I think two blindfold matches, I think. One I know for sure. But they had a blindfold match, and it was Rick the Model Martel versus Jake the Snake Roberts. Honestly, it was not that good of a match. I was not impressed by the blindfold match. I thought the blindfold match sucked, and they never need to have one again. To me, it was an epic flop, and that's about all I have to say about it. Okay. Tinder and Catal took on Demolition. This was pretty much a match to get Tinder and Catal over. Mr. Fuji had this thing back then about having a stable to put talent over. Demolition, they just put talent over back then. The Orient Express, they just put talent over back then. It wasn't until Yokozuna came around that Mr. Fuji really got somebody to start winning a lot, to be perfectly honest. I find that to be a shame, but y'all let me know what you're thinking in the comments below. Now, wrestling fans, let's go on to the Big Boss Man versus Mr. Perfect. Pretty good match. I mean, you can't complain. Mr. Perfect loses by disqualification. They teased Andre the Giant and the Big Boss Man tag teaming. It didn't go very far. So, whatever. But it was a good matchup. And of course the main event, because I've already covered the two break matches, okay, leading up to the main event. Sergeant Slaughter taking on Hulk Hogan. Good matchup. I would say it was a very good match. Hulk Hogan victorious. And the thing to remember about this, outside of Hogan capturing the WWE Championship again, is what happened afterwards. Something they don't show unless you watch it on, like, I think Coliseum Video, is Hulk Hogan, when he went backstage, he got a fireball thrown at him in his face, which continued the rivalry going into SummerSlam. So that is how WrestleMania 7 all came to be and around, and it was a overall pretty good show. I don't have anything to complain about it whatsoever. It was one of the WWE early 90s WrestleManias that I enjoyed, honestly, the most. Because 92, it was very good, but I mean, it had better potential than what it brought out to be. 93, we all know what 93 brought us, wrestling fans. And then, of course, we get into the new generation after that with 94, 95, and then 96, and then, of course, 97 and beyond. We got into the Attitude Era, and we all know what that brought us. So, and that's when WWE just went, bam, off the hook. But as far as the early 90s, 91 was a pretty decent WrestleMania year, as far as what I think. But y'all let me know what you're thinking in comments below. Give me a big thumbs up. Amongst everything else I mentioned, I will see you all tomorrow. I have a little video coming out tomorrow, and then Friday for SmackDown, and then this entire WrestleMania weekend. Until then, catch you on the other side.